I'm going to try to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Emerald Seaglass, using only Wishing Well encounters. As you know, this game is beautiful, although some of you might not think so, and that's okay. However, that is not going to stop me from Nuzlocking this game. In Emerald Seaglass, there's this thing called the Wishing Well in Rustboro City that acts like a gacha machine. Basically, you find wishing stars throughout the game, and when you toss one down the well, a random Pokemon will appear. So every Wishing Well Pokemon I get will count as an encounter. In my regular playthrough, just casually picking them up, I got around 14 stars, so at least I know I can get that many encounters. And we'll need it in case some of these are booty. Of course, hardcore Nuzlocke rules do apply, but there is such thing as hard mode in this game, which makes it so opponents will actually be a higher level than the level that the game sets for us. And we do all of this in our beautiful room by reading this book. Before I set out to go wishing, I go grab that free shiny charm because, well, it's free, and maybe it'll give us some Wishing Well luck, assuming you can even get a shiny from the well. From here, I choose Mudkip because it doesn't matter who I choose. Sorry, buddy. And basically, nothing happens from here to Rustboro, making this challenge possible as the Wishing Well is accessible before Roxanne. So, speeding through the game, we make it to our first wishing star. Come on, give me something good. A Stantler? Well, that's a guaranteed loss for Roxanne. Well, there is one more star in Rust Turf Tunnel, so I headed over there, and as you can see, Stantler against this Geodude in Nosepass is just brutal. Once we grab our wishing star, I head back to the well, and what we got? A Tailo. That's a reset. Alright, let's try this again. A Bagon? If we get Dragon Rage, that's wraps for Roxanne. I named her Toga, and the run has officially started. How you doing, Toga? Our second wishing star was actually a grass type, Tangela, which is just great. And Airy here has a modest nature, which is just perfect as physical special split is a thing in these games. Now you may be asking yourself why I have Bagon in the front of the party, and it's because Roxanne actually leads something to counter Tangela, Anorith. I don't believe it has a bug type move, but I could be wrong. I did start by biting, but she was hardening, so I switched to Dragon Breath, and that smackdown did a decent chunk. But after 3 hits, Anorith was done for. That wasn't her only fossil though, as she has a Lileep next, which is purple. How did I not notice that in my first playthrough? That's actually pretty sick. Lileep is more defensive, so that Rock Tomb didn't do much, and it pops her Oranberry. And while she is lowering our speed in the process, we got a Paralysis, which actually paralyzes her at one point as I risked a crit. Once Nosepass is in, I switch into Airy, who takes pretty much nothing from Rock Tomb, and we start absorbing for health, and since our special attacker is just better, this works out great as it does a ton of damage and she just hardened. Honestly, the first 2 Pokemon on her team were more threatening than that thing. With our first gym badge down, we're feeling in a good mood to help this guy get his stolen goods back, and I'm just hoping he gives us a wishing star for our troubles. Or at least Mr. Briny, but no, we get a phone. I don't need a phone, man. I got nature and Pokemon. From here, I go fight Ethan on the way out of Rustboro, and this fight kind of scared me since I led wrong and this Wingull starts supersonicking. Luckily, it missed 2, but we did hit ourselves once. We did snap out once Trico was in though, and I did risk Toga's life for more damage as Airy only has grass type moves. And now it was just a battle of who could suck the life out of the other first. Airy was actually doing more damage despite having absorbed, but either way, we had an Oranberry attached, so he was never going to win this fight. After that, we hitch a ride on Mr. Briny's boat, something actually useful as a reward, and in no time we're in Dewford Town, where to the right, there's a good old wishing star waiting for us. So naturally, I backtrack all the way to Rustboro, as that's the only well you can do this at, and we get a Magnemite, which is horrible for the next gym. But hey, I'll take it. It doesn't have Stardy? Aw, this is buns. With that encounter, I decided to check out Granite Cave, as I do think there's more wishing stars in here, and I turn out to be correct as well as this man saying I like them. Well, of course I like them. They give me free Pokemon. While here, I might as well deliver the letter to Steven, and on we go back to Rustboro. Come on, Wishing Well. Oh, that's not... Jesus. I named her Midnight because my heart belongs to Midnight. If you know what I'm talking about, then cool. If not, let's move along. But to be honest, this thing is probably gonna be fodder. There ain't no emotional bond here. Huh, maybe Love Disc isn't useful after all. It gets Draining Kiss plus Charm. Oh wait, I have 4 more wishing stars? Must have either been from Granite Cave on the floor or actually from the hiker I talked to. Either way, please give me something to deal with Brawly. Zubat is fucking amazing, dude. Numo's great for Watson. Psyduck's meh. And last but not least, Rattata. Oh god, man. This game really said you're gonna work for this badge. Now, not gonna lie, I thought it was over with Love Disc as that's prone to die to Brawly's Heracross since it has Bullet Seed. But we might have a fighting chance here. Okay, so Brawly here leads a Makuhita and our level is level 19. I lead Midnight to just Draining Kiss and this actually has been doing a lot of damage. So we almost knock it out. This is like the only instance you'll ever see me using a Love Disc. But I'm impressed for early game. Every Pokemon on his team has Citrus Berries and I'm assuming Heracross is going to come out directly after this. So the question is, Do I sack Midnight, or do I switch into Zubat on a Bullet Seed? Neither. I think the answer is Charming, since this is fodder anyways. This will force the AI to use Bulk Up since I'm lowering his attack, and maybe Midnight can actually pull off a sweep here. We eventually get it into Citrus range, charm some more, and all this thing has done is Bulk Up. Eventually Brawly's AI does cave in and just start Bullet Seeding, but Midnight ain't a little bitch and goes after this little beetle's neck. And lo and behold, Midnight gets the KO on him. Okay, maybe I am attached to this Heartfish. With that, all that's left is Meditite, who actually has Light Screen, which sucks. But we get all of our health back, and I was mistaken. I guess not all of them have Citrus Berries. How did a Love Disc sweep Brawly? This is peak cinema. Everybody better respect my girl Midnight. I know I will from now on. Dude, Brawly looks like he just has no idea what the fuck just happened, and neither do I. From here we head to Slateport, and I figured there would be a Wishing Star somewhere on the beach, and I was indeed correct. Now we just get casually robbed for $50, take care of some Team Aqua business, and move up to go fight Ethan, but before that, this double battle. It was frightening. Minun uses Swift, and it does a ton of damage, and the only reason Toga didn't die was because I have a King's Rock on her, plus Headbutts, Flinch, Chance, and I flinched Plusle twice. I'm sorry, I'm done playing with your life. On top of that, they both had Oranberries. From here, I switch in Midnight, and obviously Plusle is going to Swift as well, but I noticed Airy was faster than Plusle, so we can get an Absorb off before Plusle attacks, meaning Airy lives. The following turn, I hoped Midnight would outspeed, and she did, so this gets rid of that super fast Minun, and another Absorb lets us live a Swift. So we're good, right? No, they have another Plusle, and Midnight got sparked. Since I know I'm faster, I continue Draining Kissing, and Airy can knock out the first Plusle. Now with Minun on the other side, I Absorb and let 13 take hits from Swift and Spark. Unfortunately, I do not have Sonic Boom because I'm an idiot, but Airy was able to take care of everything else with the help of some Light Screen action. I hope you two have a great life. You deserve each other, you bunch of Numal. Come with me, please. I didn't want to kill you before Watson, but clearly, I need you. Now, unfortunately for Ethan, I led wrong again, but Midnight, my lord and savior, comes in to save the day once more. Grovyle comes in next, and I figure Togoyami is a great switch, cause, you know, quad resistance and stuff, but no, he crit, and it was Leaf Blade. At this point in the game, you have Leaf Blade? You're brutal, Ethan. I did risk another crit because I needed damage on this thing, and thankfully, it was just a quick attack. From here, Togu comes in, tanks a hit, and the next turn doesn't tank a hit, and that is our first death in the run. Another critical hit, Leaf Blade. You're a cruel little boy. Toga was such a kind soul, and she was going to become the biggest MVP on the team. I just know it. But the game just doesn't want to make it easy for me, so I respect it. Believe it or not, a Leaf Blade did half of 13's health, and if I just had Sonic Boom, it might have KO'd. At this point, I'm freaking out, so I go into Airy, another Pokemon who resists Leaf Blade, and another Headbutt finally gets rid of this piece of crap Gecko. With that, all that's left is Mantike, but I'm utterly terrified, and rightfully so, since this thing confuses Midnight on the Switch. I just prayed and clicked Draining Kiss. We got confused twice, and it was a while before we snapped out, but somehow we made it through this battle with only one death. And Mantike confused me twice there. Midnight is somehow the MVP right now. A frickin' Love Disc. What is happening? I should have looked at my notes from my first playthrough. That way I would have evolved Zubat before that fight, and my dear Toga would still be with us. On the right side, there was a Wishing Star hidden on the route, as well as one above Mauville. Man, I don't know about you, but Watson doesn't look like Watson. This is Chuck. On a related note, doesn't Watson just remind you of General Iroh? Now, Watson leads a Volbeat as I lead Endeavor, and you might be thinking, why the hell is he leading a Volbeat? And to answer that, Volbeat is an electric type in this game. Pretty cool, but it's still just a Volbeat, so 2 Lava Plumes is enough to incinerate this bug. Thankfully, it looks like the infestation goes away since it died, so we don't have to deal with that. From here, my mascot comes in, and I go for a nice Magnitude as he goes for Power Gem, which did a chunk. And you know, I'm expecting like a Magnitude 7, but Endeavor is not playing around and just slings out a Magnitude 10 and decimates this sheep to the ground. Someone stop this man. Oh, okay, not literally. Manectric is scary, however, the first time I fought this thing, it only howled and used Quick Attack, and it probably has an Electric type move, so I'm just gonna risk Endeavor's life here. And this time we get a puny little Magnitude 5. Can't win them all. From here, I switch into Skeptic. You guys remember Skeptic, right? The Rattata I had? Well, here he is in all of his glory. A nice Silk Scarf boosted Hyper Fang does tons, and all that needs to happen is to not get paralyzed, and what does he do? He gets paralyzed. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I have this problem where I hate getting deaths, and the smart thing would be to sack this fool, but I just did not put Sonic Boom on 13, and that would have been great in this situation as 13 could dish some damage out, but no, so unfortunately I do sack Skeptic, but not before getting a Quick Attack off. From here, Airy finishes off that, and Magneton is in, which kind of sucks since I can't really damage it, and it confused us. How many times am I gonna get confused in this game? I did get a crit Mega Drain though. Now from here, I just think I need a Sleep Powder, so maybe let Endeavor KO with Lava Plume or Magnitude, but I did get confused twice. Luckily, I did pull through for the sleep powder and switched into Endeavor. Now we just have to hope it stays asleep. It didn't stay asleep. Camerupt is pretty bad, but still, I wanted him to prosper here. Maybe I should have went to the well to get some encounters before this fight. From here, I really don't know what to do, so I go into Midnight to Water Pulse, and we get a big confusion. However, it didn't get confused, but it Thunderwaved. Okay. And Midnight takes another soul. Wait, this thing is faster? It's supersonicked. Watson, what are you doing? Why did you spare my pride and joy? Honestly, I appreciate the mercy, dude. Call me if you need anything, old man. With the 3rd badge completed, I need to go get some Wishing Well encounters, and this guy in Verdant Turf Town gives us some Wishing Stars, which is nice, so now I have a total of 6, meaning 6 encounters. Starting with, alright, who's trolling down there? Pretty fitting name, don't you think? Alright, round 2 is... Oh, this game could eat my... An Igglybuff? At least it's fairy type in this game. Yo, what is happening? A Paris? That's worse than Caterpie.
You fucking bitch, why you bully me?
Now that is what I'm talking about. I love Gligar. Alright, Ponyta is acceptable. Okay, and last one. Ah, Cubone. Honestly, if we can get an Alolan Marowak, this is an amazing encounter. Since we've beaten Watson and we're close to Petalburg City, I headed there next as the market here now sells ability capsules, so I grabbed 2 to change Magnemite's Magnet Pull to Sturdy and Ponyta's Runaway to Flash Fire. And from there, it was a straight shot to Fall Arbor Town, as only this double battle needs to be fought. And we also got a Wishing Star in the Ash. After that, we get access to Citrus Berries, and off we went again to deal with evil team business, while also snagging some more juicy stars in the process. Which I then go back to Rustboro to get 3 encounters. Swablu, Seedot, and Seviper. Not bad at all. Swablu has the Fairy typing added to him, Seedot is great with a Psychic type immunity when it evolves, and Seviper is good too. However, why wasn't this thing given the Dark typing? Arbok got the Dark typing. It doesn't make sense to me. I will say the sprite is godly with that black on it. Looks more poisonous that way. Speaking of encounters, Cubone has Skill Link as an ability, and they gave it Rock Blast, which is awesome, as well as a couple more multi-hit moves when it evolves. The only problem is I actually can't evolve this into Alolan Marowak, which kind of blows, but it is what it is. Apparently, the only way to get Alolan forms is through the pinball machine in Mauville. You can't actually evolve any of them into Alolan forms, which makes sense since I did hatch an Alolan Executor, not an Execute, in my last run. Regardless, I led Dobby for Maxi. Mightyena more than likely will go for a nice swagger, upping our attack by 2 stages, and by putting a Lumberry on him, we can forget about the confusion. Only problem, Dobby didn't secure the KO. It was a good strat though. I'm sure my Acrobatics Gligar would have done it though. This leads us to getting swaggered again, but our defense is pretty decent, so Dobby doesn't do much damage to himself. So I risk another confusion, and Mightyena is down. For some reason, I went first that time. Camerupt is out next, and Earth Powers, which did nothing, but we didn't get confused, so Rock Blast just destroys him. Gligar does have Acrobatics, and I don't see why it wouldn't do it, so I go into 13 to tank it. From there, I expect a ground type move, so I go into Sun Eater, who can then get an Acrobatics of his own now, and as long as he doesn't crit, we win, and we do. After this fight, we can essentially buy Pokemon because we can buy Wishing Stars. However, I will not be taking a part in this capitalistic society by purchasing any of these stars because I don't know, it feels kind of cheap to keep buying them and not run out of encounters. So I'm just going to keep hunting for stars. Maybe I'll purchase just one down the line, but we'll see. Our next gym is in Lava Ridge Town, and I accidentally leveled Marowak past the level 29 cap, which kind of sucks. Now, obviously, Flannery will be higher than that cap since we're on hard mode, but I'm still not going to use him for this fight, which is totally fine as I have this Golduck. Coda here is awesome as it has the ability Cloud 9, meaning Flannery can't actually set up Sunny Day. Or she can, but Coda doesn't give a fuck. And with our modest nature and awesome special attack, kind of, Coda does serious damage to this team. And not only does this make her fire-type moves not get a boost, but it also doesn't reduce our Water Pulse's damage. And her AI was freaking out using Sunny Day while Sun was up, so maybe the AI can realize I have Cloud 9, or Flannery is just stupid. Either way, that was the easiest gym badge by far. Now, Norman is pretty tough, and that's just because if you look at my team, it's just a lot of mediocre Pokemon. Don't get me wrong, some of them have surprised me, but nothing here is crazy. In my first playthrough of this game, I only found 16 stars, and the documentation also says most of these are on the western side of Hoenn, and that's probably because you just can buy them. So I'm pretty sure I'm really out of encounters for Norman, unless I really hunt some of these down, which I don't even know if there's any left. The documentation also said there's a little girl in Rustboro who gives us stars, and well, here she is. And with these stars, we get a Skarmory, Miltank, Skitty, Spearow, and a Spoink. Aside from the first two, these are pretty bad. However, Spearow did have the ability Technician. Skarmory gets Gale Wings in this hack, which is great since Skarmory isn't super fast, and Miltank actually has Scrappy, which could be useful, but to be honest, Thick Fat is probably better, or even Sap Sipper. Speaking of abilities, I love this game because some Pokemon are actually usable, like Wigglytuff. That's actually a big surprise. It has the ability Huge Power, and she happens to get access to a bunch of physical moves in the base games, so this could be good. As well as getting Wake Up Slap for Norman. Also, Golduck is a Psychic type in this game, plus gets Punk Rock as a hidden ability, which, I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot after this point, and I didn't go back to check what hidden abilities it had, and this kind of sucks as I'm reading the script, because it gets Sparkling Aria later on, and I think that's boosted by Punk Rock. And, I'm starting to hate my life, because... well, you'll see, I guess. I also changed Aries' ability to Regenerator. So yeah, Norman leads a Spinda, and Hagakure has Wake Up Slap. Unfortunately, Wigglytuff is still slow, so we got confused, but I was able to get Spinda down to the red. Ryuku comes in next to eat a Facade, and gets Spikes up. 3 layers, to be exact, just in case. From there, I go into Magneton, making sure Skarm is confused, so we don't get confused on entry. But it's funny because I actually got Psybeam confused one time. Once Spinda is down, Slacking comes in, takes Spikes damage, and this is exactly what I wanted. As you know, Slacking is very fast, so while it's loafing around, I go ahead and get a big para off. I might be taking a little bit more precaution than usual, but this thing actually has counter, so I don't just want to Wake Up Slap and lose my Wigglytuff. So instead, 13 can now Mirror Shot. What I didn't take into account was Norman's gym rewards you with the TM Facade, so obviously every Pokemon on his team has it. And this did so much damage to Magneton. So on his Truant turn, Fatgum comes in to get the biggest body. Okay, that did nothing. But at least he got paralyzed. From there we get a crit Body Slam, which probably mattered, and Vigoroth is in. I knew I shouldn't have Body Slammed this thing, because we actually did get the 30% para, and Vigoroth used Facade with a normal gem attached, and this did a lot of damage. However, it did less than I expected, so one more Body Slam, and that's out of here. From there, Fatgum can easily take down Politoed thanks to Milk Drink and no crits. Didn't even have to use my Huge Power Wigglytuff. Next up is Route 119, and this route's amazing because it actually gives us the Razor Fang, allowing us to evolve Sun Eater into Gliscor, who happens to learn Flying Press. Pretty neat. The Weather Institute was cake thanks to Hagakure. Okay, I might have lied. This Masquerain was doing tons of damage with Bubble Beam. Masquerain is a water type in this hack, but what the actual F is that damage? And on top of that, it crit Ryuku on my Switch, killing it. This was some top tier bullshit. Skarmory got killed by a Masquerain. Never thought I'd see the day. Meanwhile, Hagakure was just one-shotting everything in this fight. I know we barely used you, and you might just be a Skarmory, but you were my Skarmory. At least Koda is a Psychic type. With Team Aqua all dealt with, we take on Ethan, who wasn't too hard, only having 3 Pokemon. Now, Winona's gym has some tough trainers like this double battle. Luckily with Dobby and Sun Eater, this wasn't too bad. But you can just see some of these heaters that these two have. Dobby's Rock Blast with skill link though is amazing. Honestly, it might be worth trying to get him a Thick Club for more damage. And this wasn't the only double battle. I mean, look at these two. Dobby did almost bite the dust here, but it was too close. And with that, we can take on Winona, but first, I need a new team. Because 3 of my Pokemon are over the level 33 cap. Son of a... The good news is I promised Watson I would do him a favor, so I called him up, and yeah, he's here in Mauville City. So as long as we go turn on this generator in New Mauville, he'll give us the TM for Thunderbolt. And I was headed towards Sleetport anyways to buy a Thunderstone for Magnezone, but it turns out I didn't need it as a Thunderstone was here as well. 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, it's still hard to use Magnezone for this fight as I know Altaria and Fearow both have ground type moves, so I did think of something else, and that is Facade on Fatgum. All we gotta do is poison Fatgum with this Venomoth on the next route and teach him the move. And we should be good, as Miltank is surprisingly fast at a base 100 speed. But I'm sure you already knew that. Who doesn't? Anyways, I lead Fatgum as Winona leads Fearow. I swear I thought Fearow would get one-shot by this, but it just didn't. I don't even think it would with a Silk Scarf on. I opted for a Citrus Berry instead since we're poisoned. And to make matters worse, she got a quick attack off before I finished it off. And even on top of that, our Citrus Berry didn't pop when we were at half, even with poison whittling us down even more. What am I missing here? And yes, things can get worse as Skarmory outspeeds Fatgum for a Flying Gem boosted Aerial Ace, but it didn't exactly outspeed per se. If you remember from me having Ryuku, it has Gale Wings. Luckily, Skarmory is pretty weak, so it didn't KO Miltank, and then our Citrus Berry pops. So late, as we milk drink. Since we're all healthy, I go into 13 on an abysmal critical hit Aerial Ace, since it doesn't have Sturdy. Tropius was up next, and Thunderbolt didn't do much as she Sunny Day'd, which I should have expected. From here, I just go into Tokoyami on a quad resisted Solar Beam, and a Cross Poison, oddly enough, doesn't KO. That's kind of pathetic, Tokoyami. Either way, once Banana Chin is down, Pelipper is in. Since Sun is up, I just go into 13 who gets confused. Surprise, surprise. But all was well as Pelipper does get electrocuted. All that's left is her level 36 Altaria. Now yes, I am tempted to use Flash Cannon, especially since I can't predict Altaria AI. If you watch my last video, you'll know what I mean. This thing loves to use D-Dance even when it has a super effective move. So yeah, it could D-Dance even though it has EQ. But regardless, let's just predict it'll click the quad effective move. Thank you, Winona. Thank you. From there, we Cross Poison, which I was hoping would do more, and she starts dancing. Hoping I outspeed, I wanted to flinch since I have a King's Rock on Crobat, but we didn't, and I kind of wasted a turn there. But again, Altaria AI is just going to keep on dancing and then use a special move when she's set up. I don't know what they were thinking with this fight. But thank Arceus I came out of that fight without any deaths, as I can't afford any deaths with the limited amount of good Pokemon I have. I love the little Magnezone walking sprite. Ethan is waiting for us in the front of Lily Cove department store, and I thought he would lead his Arcanine, but for this fight he actually leads his Tropius, which is horrible for Golduck. So I switch in Fat Gum only to be guaranteed crit from Flower Trick. And the following turn, we get Air Slashed. Luckily, we did get a Para, so now we just Milk Drink, and now would be a great time to have the Sap Sipper ability. From here, I go into 13 as she got paralyzed like 3 times in a row, but Miltank was missing thanks to Leaf Tornado lowering our accuracy. Okay, scratch that, 4 times. She got Para-Haxed 4 times in a row. He's not having a good day. Of course, Arcanine is going to come in now, so I baited that fire type move. I go into Thick Fat Fat Gum, who can eat moves, Milk Drink, and Body Slam. But eventually, it looked like I was in Eat Speed range, so Dobby had to finish this one up. And he got a new move for Skill Link, Spike Cannon. When Sceptile is on the field, I switch into Hagakure on a Detect. I was fearing Breaking Swipe or something, but that's good too. What's not good is it went for Cross Poison of all moves, and my heart stopped. And to make matters worse, Hagakure just barely missed the KO on this thing, and I'm not going to risk a crit, but oddly enough, it went for a U-turn, but his only Pokemon left is Pelipper, so this is great aside from Rain being up thanks to Drizzle. 13 might die here. Magnezone's not terribly slow though, so 1 Thunderbolt and there we go. That was annoying for no reason at all. After this fight, I went back to Dewford to look for a Cubone with a Thick Club on it from Marowak, but catching them was just going to take too long, so I figured out Skitty has Covet, so I guess this Skitty actually came in handy. But if I had just went to the mart and checked the TMs, yeah, they sell the TM for Thief there, and that would have saved me a little time. But even doing this wasn't getting me a Thick Club. I was questioning whether or not this ROM hack even had held items on the Pokemon. But then I also remembered that I have Gigantomachia, who has Compound Eyes. And I have no idea if this works in this ROM hack, but this should make it more likely for a wild Pokemon to have a held item on. And 2 Cubones later, and we finally had our Thick Club, so I'm assuming it does work. With our roided up dead mother, we take on evil team stuff. Starting by asking Archie if he could just give us the orb. I said please, by the way. Oh, come on, I said please. Then I went to the Magma hideout, and apparently Sunflora is a fire type in this hack, which is freaking awesome. And I only noticed because my Flash Cannon was resisted. And Dodrio is actually a ground type. What the fuck? In no time, we are ready to stop Maxie. How, you may ask? Well, I said please. He didn't like that very much. Maxie leads a Gliscor of his own as I lead Coda. And Coda here learns Sparkling Aria, which I mentioned before, which I think is Primarina's signature move. That is a base 90 power move. So that Gliscor was not living. And like I also mentioned before, yeah, I don't have Punk Rock on this thing. God, I'm so stupid. I was kind of like, why the hell did they give it Punk Rock? Not realizing that like Sparkling Aria is the water type move. And I was kind of thinking like, what psychic type move also gets that? And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Golduck also got Psychic Noise during this run. And again, I just forgot that Punk Rock was a sound-based move, or an ability that Golduck gets. Yeah, that's why they gave it to it. It gets Psychic Noise and it gets Sparkling Aria, and that actually would have made a huge difference. Next up is Crobat, which leads me to believe this thing might have a Dark type move. So I swap in 13 to eat a Leech Life, which I thought would be a Dark type move, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how I didn't think that it would use that move either. Of course, a single Thunderbolt destroys this bat, and then Camerupt came in. Fearing a fire type move, I go into Fat Gum, but unfortunately it could go for either that fire type move or a ground type move. But yeah, an Earthquake was what he used. This happened to pop my Citrus Berry though, although it didn't matter as Bulldoze did absolutely nothing to this thing. Now I did get Yawn, but I just Body Slam for Chip and got a Para. From there, Sun Eater can come in on an EQ and Acrobatics should just KO. That is if I didn't put a Citrus Berry on him. Whoops. Luckily, I do have the move U-Turn, so we can just switch out for Ursaring, which should have totally been an Ursaluna. What are you doing, Maxie? I would love to use Dobby here, but like I said, this thing has Grav Apple and it lowered our defense, meaning I don't want to risk a crit, so I go into 13. Gotta be honest, Sap Sipper Miltank would have been nice here. Either way, one Thunderbolt later, and Maxie hopefully now realizes he's in the wrong. And hopefully he also realizes that if somebody says please, to at least consider it before getting hostile. At level 38, Tangela finally learned Ancient Power, which if you know anything about this little noodle, that's how it evolves. And it sucks because in later games, I think it learns Ancient Power at an earlier level, like 33 or something. And yeah, Aerie made us wait for her. That doesn't even look like a Tangrowth. It looks like someone's in a suit. The Team Aqua hideout has some of these guys having some devious Pokemon like this fighting type Electivire, but you don't have to fight too many of them, so we were fine. After this, I added Monetta to the team and I changed his ability to Pixelate, as that'll make our Hyper Voice not only be a fairy type move, but it will give us a 30% damage boost, which Altaria desperately needs. I could also buy a Flame Orb back in Petalburg and use this with my Facade Miltank. Now, I'll be honest, ever since I've been in the east side of Hoenn, I straight up haven't found a single Wishing Star, and I don't think I will because of the whole, buying them situation. So to be honest, if I don't end up finding any, I'm just going to buy one Wishing Star and count that as an encounter. I think that's fair. The documentation said they're mainly in Western Hoenn, kind of implying that there might be some in Eastern Hoenn, but yeah, I can't find any, even hidden in the ground. I was going to change Altaria's ability Pixelate since we have Dragon Dance and special moves, so I was just going to opt for Play Rough, but on second thought, how about we do this? Let's change Dragon Pulse to Dragon Claw, and instead of Hyper Voice or Play Rough, let's just give Altaria Facade as well. This way, Facade is boosted by a Burn or a Poison, gets turned into a Fairy type move, which means we get Stab, and it gets boosted from Pixelate. And, we have Dragon Dance to up our attack. And if you're wondering where I got another Facade TM, you can just buy some TMs at the marts, which, again, I forgot about. Tate and Liza's gym is pretty annoying since most of them are double battles, and they also look like psychos. First battle in, and I almost lost Dobby because I tried to sleep Powder Gallade, when they just used Safeguard, and that was a +2 Gallade from Swords Dance, so you can see how tanky Dobby is. Now, I did keep in Dobby, and this is because Gigantomachia has a move called Rage Powder, which will make the opposing team target Butterfree, and since Gallade is the only one left, it hits Butterfree, and Dobby being slow doesn't matter, and it can actually finish this thing off with a Shadow Bone. Big brain plays, baby. By the way, I literally just learned what Rage Powder does from a recent Wolfie video, so go subscribe to him. You'd be surprised how much synergy Nagant and Gigantomachia have. I changed Nagant's ability to Wind Rider, which will up his attack if hit by a wind move, but not only that, Tailwind as well, and Butterfree literally just learned this move mid-fight, so I destroyed this for a draft. I love these two together. Now, despite this combo, I couldn't use it for Tate and Liza, as they lead Miss Magus and Claydol, and Miss Magus would destroy Shiftry since it's a fairy type. So instead, I led Sun Eater and Dobby. Sun Eater has Ice Fang for Claydol, and Dobby has Skill Link Spike Cannon for Miss Magus. Now, I think this would have killed Miss Magus regardless, but we got 2 crits on those Spike Cannons, which was pretty impressive and probably unnecessary on Dobby's part. I'll be honest, I probably should have switched Sun Eater out, as it could have died if they ganged up on him, but that didn't happen, and Claydol was at half. And Solrock just Sunny Day'd, and Dobby got another crit on the first Spike Cannon. What are you on, dude? From here, Nagant can come in, and I know they set up Sunny Day, but I did not think it would go for Flamethrower on Gliscor, and that was just a horrible switch. Sort of. Nagant's immune to Psychic, and we lived. Solrock is down to more Spike Cannons, and Lunatone is in. The following turn was weird. I don't know if I got my speed lowered or something, but how is Claydol and Lunatone outspeeding a Shiftry? Thankfully, Lunatone calm-minded, and EQ did nothing, but seriously, what just happened? Anyways, a Leaf Blade does take care of the Dreidel, and if it wasn't for that Citrus Berry, this fight would have been over. Where's the crit here, Dobby? Regardless, Coda finished this battle off. Now, what's not easy is Maxie, as this is a double battle, and the level cap for Juan is 46, and he's all the way up at 46. So I don't really want to overlevel on accident, as we still have to take on Archie. Luckily, this is a double battle, as I led these two, meaning Sun Eater can Ice Fang Gliscor, Dobby can tank a Drill Run, and Crobat stands no chance on this 125 base power Rock Blast. Great first turn. This next turn is pretty simple. I just Acrobatics to get Shiftry out of here, and Dobby's time was up, so I go into Aerie on a Fake Out, which works out magnificently. And of course, Gliscor is going to drill run on Airy as well. With this ground type Dodrio up, I go into Dobby as he Thunderous kicks Sun Eater for some reason. Like, you have a Gliscor, you know it's immune, right? What are you doing? And then a nice Ice Fang goes off on Dodrio. And the following turn, both these idiots go down to the power duo. I don't know how I'm making this team work, but I am, and I'm loving every second of it. I am scared of Gliscor's death since this camera up does have Scald, so I go into Fat Gum, and Dobby now has Bone Rush for a stab move that goes with Skill Link. So camera up stood no chance at all. This fight was looking good. That is until something devastating happened. This Ursaluna. It has the move Close Combat, and just straight up took out Fat Gum from where he was at. There was no saving him from that brutal beating. And in the rage of Dobby, he smacked Ursaluna with his bone as hard and as many times as he possibly could until it was dead on the ground. Dobby avenged his brother in arms, and that won't change how upset I am about it, as it was one of my faster Pokemon. But still, I appreciated it, Dobby. We were having so much fun, Maxie. Why'd you have to ruin it? For some reason, Archie is significantly easier than Maxie in this hack, only having 4 Pokemon, 3 of which Moneta was able to take out, and we did have a scare as Sharpedo did have Poison Fang. Altaria is tanky defensively, so we did live, but if it wasn't for this fight being over, the poison would have definitely KO'd us here. I swear I tried saying please. Will you two stop arguing? This wouldn't have happened if you just did what I asked, especially since I said please. I love how everyone just leaves the teenager in the literal hurricane. Oh, your greatness. Pretty please. Go stop your little brothers from fighting each other. You see? How hard was that, guys? With all that story stuff out of the way, we can finally take on Juan, which has this beautiful Starmie. Nagant is our choice for obvious reasons, and when Kingdra is up, I go into Kanoko. You guys remember Kanoko, right? And he takes a devastating Ice Gem boosted Ice Beam. It sucks because if this Kingdra opted for Blizzard, Wind Rider would activate, boosting our attack, but no, just a mere Ice Beam. Safe to say I didn't need a Parasect. From here, I go into Moneta, who is holding a Choice Scarf, which we bought in Petalburg. With that, we outspeed for a nice pixelated facade to almost KO Kingdra. I guess D-Dance would have got the same outcome, assuming no crits. But either way, that's the best way I could think of dealing with Kingdra. From here, the rest of the team is horrid. Moneta barely lives on 2 HP from poison damage, and we switch into Airy as she does have Regenerator in case things go wrong. We got confused, so that to me is things going wrong. So I switched into Hagakure instead and get our accuracy lowered by Octazooka. Now, unfortunately, he does have Citrus on this thing, so even though Body Slam did half, it doesn't matter. But on the very least, I had a Citrus on Wigglytuff as well, so we can at least get one more Body Slam off. Yes, I am faster for the KO here, but with our accuracy lowered, I don't think it's worth it. So I go into Airy, who is fully healed thanks to Regenerator, and Juan got paralyzed, so now I just have to be cheeky with an Ancient Power. Of course, Celio is in next, so I swap in 13 to eat an Aurora Beam, since Airy is not only weak to it, but has terrible special defense. Now, I thought 2 Thunderbolts would be enough, but no, Celio just holds on for dear life by its sheer will. Thankfully, no confusion from Water Pulse, and I just Volt Switch after, as Whiscash is Juan's last Pokemon, which Airy can just one-shot. Not too bad of a fight aside from almost losing Moneta, but to be honest, Altaria is so bad. If it even had 85 base attack, I think it would have killed that Kingdra. They should have given this thing huge power. You know, I totally forgot about going back to Mount Chimney to buy one single Wishing Star as my encounter, so I went to do that, and we ended up with a Lileep. Not really too good. That is, if Storm Drain wasn't its hidden ability. Plus, it gets Flower Trick, which always crits, and crits in this game are double damage. Bro, Altaria is so ass. I have a Choice Band on him, Facade Pixelate for stab and a damage boost, and I'm 5 levels above Wally, and it still doesn't kill. And on top of that, Moneta nearly died to a crit Moonblast. I'm so done with this Pokemon. Anyways, Gardevoir comes out directly after this, and I switched in 13 on a future site, and this also sucks. A Choice Spec Splash Cannon couldn't KO this thing. It did call mine, but still. Once that's down, we tank this future site, and go into Sun Eater on a Supersonic. Luckily, we snap out 2 turns later and EQ, and Tri-Attack didn't burn Para or freeze us. As for Delcatty, I needed to switch, and I thought I was faster, so I went for a U-turn, but we just weren't, and got put to sleep. So then I had to hard switch into Dobby on a Feint Attack, and I wanted to go into Shift Free, but it could have a Fairy type move, so I didn't want to risk it. And the BS continues. 2 Sings connected. What sorcery is this? Think Arceus, it's just a Delcatty. Eventually we knock it out, and all that's left is Roserade, which is horrible for Dobby, but predicting a Grass type move, I go into Nagant, and it's the perfect Grass type move, Leech Seed. So now Nagant just uses Floaty Fall twice, and Roserade, well, falls. With Wally defeated, all we have to do is maneuver through Victory Road very carefully, and some of these battles are kind of crazy since there's a bunch of double battles. However, this last double battle, I definitely did them separately, as this fight could make it so that there's 2 slackings on the field at a time, and that's no fun. Oddly enough, this thing has the Ice Beam of all moves, but it did absolutely nothing. The other slacking though did a lot to Magnezone, but still, for being a quad effective move, I guess it could have done more. Other than that, Victory Road was smooth and the gate was up ahead, so we head on in, flash the guards, our badges that is, and Sydney is our first fight. The great thing about this E4 is that the cap is so much higher than Sydney since it's 58, and Sydney is just starting in the 50s. Another great thing is this Mightyena doesn't have Intimidate, meaning Moneta just gets a full sweep off finally. Absol did outspeed, but it just used Swords Dance, and most of his team is also slower than Altaria, so that was just a plus for us. This is the only time Bandit Altaria will be doing work. I doubt it can even do that for Drake. Being overleveled for Phoebe is also nice since she has 2 tanky Pokemon, that being her Duskull line. So naturally Shiftry doesn't KO with Darkest Lariat, and we get confused. From here I send in 13 since I do know it has Protect, and she did go for it. 13 now with that Choice Specs can Volt Switch, and back into Nagant we go. I don't want to lose Nagant, so I go into Woods, who tanks a brutal Moonblast. We take another one which lowers our special attack, but I went for the only physical move I have, Flower Trick, which will always crit, and I did this because Miss Magus' defense sucks. And to be honest, I should have put a Citrus Berry on Woods, instead I had Rocky Helmet. Assuming she's going to keep using Moonblast, I go into 13 again, who unfortunately gets his special attack lowered, so I don't really want to Volt Switch. So we tank a Shadow Ball, and our Flash Cannon gets rid of one of her big threats. But we're in a bit of a pickle now, as 13's the only Pokemon who can deal with Frostlass. Even if I risk death here, which I don't really want to do, but I doubt Phoebe's going to click an Ice-type move on a Steel-type, so assuming Shadow Ball is coming, I go back into Nagant, and we are correct. Now, a Scarf Darkest Lariat destroys Frostlass, and Dusknoir isn't. But this thing is tanky with a Citrus Berry, so obviously a Darkest Lariat doesn't KO, and why wouldn't she have Ice Beam on this thing? So now it's either sack something or go into Dobby. I feel like Dobby is my most expendable member and does tank that Ice Beam like a champ. So as long as she doesn't get a crit or a freeze, we should be fine. And we get neither. Thank Bidoof. One Shadow Bone KOs this monster from where it's at, which oddly enough did more than Bone Rush, at least according to some calcs. And Banette is her final Pokemon. From here I kind of just switch into anything since Banette is horrible, and Sun Eater just cleans this fight up. That was a hard fight to maneuver, but I'm glad I was able to pull through to our next Elite Four member, Glacia. I have no idea if I can beat her, because as I said, I have a severe weakness to Ice types. And this leads back to me not realizing that Golduck gets Punk Rock as the hidden ability and does way more damage with Sparkling Aria and Psychic Noise. I should have brought Golduck, I'm an idiot. Again, I have this really bad habit of just using Pokemon that I really like. So I didn't want to give up Gliscor or, pick Club Marowak with Skill Link. Anyways, Glacia leads a Dugong at level 54, and this is the least of our worries since I banded Nagant and a Leaf Blade can just take that right out, but Glaceon comes out right after, and this is what I was afraid of. Now luckily I don't have to sack something just yet because I have 13 who could potentially tank an Ice-type move, but this thing goes straight up for Hail. The next turn it does a pathetic Chilling Water, and our Specs Magnezone gets a brutal Flash Cannon off, finishing the Glaceon off in one hit. But of course Walrein comes in and I'm locked into Flash Cannon, so now there's two things I can do. I can sack Sun Eater, or I can make a very bold move. Predict a Water-type move coming from Walrein and go into our Storm Drain Cradily, which I might need for Wallace. Well, that's what I did, and it did in fact serve, meaning Woods here now has a special attack boost, so we can eat an Ice Beam, and not in a good way, eat our Citrus Berry, and then Giga Drain her, popping her Citrus Berry. At this point, either I Giga Drain again, risking a crit, or I could Rock Tomb for something else to outspeed, as Magnezone might or might not outspeed, or I can just straight up sack Gliscor right now. I ended up Rock Tombing, but the worst thing happened. We got frozen, and I switched in 13 on an Ice Beam when maybe I should have just sacked Sun Eater and Nagant Revenge Kills. Instead, this Walrein does in fact outspeed, and 13 gets surfed to death. Well, Nagant can still Revenge Kill, but then with Glalie, I just have to sack Sun Eater and go into Dobby, but if you thought the situation couldn't get any worse, this thing has Moody to boost its special attack by 2 stages, and it does this every single turn, with a random stat, but yeah, no, we're fucked. One by one, my Pokemon fell. Moneta, Nagant, Woods, all dead by a moody-ass Glalie. Now this is some top-tier BS. Granted, I should have brought Rapidash for this fight, or Golduck. Maybe that would have saved me. I did just want to see if what I had planned worked, so I reset the fight, even though I lost, and yeah, I mean, we lower her speed, go into 13, sack Sun Eater, maybe, or just go into 13 outright so I can use Flash Cannon because, Choice Specs. Flash Cannon away, although I don't know if we come out of this. Cloyster did use Hail on our switch, which sucks as it just dies to Magnazone's Flash Cannon and battle over. And Dobby can take an Icicle Crash, but then it can't even finish it off with Rock Blast thanks to Cloyster's high defense stat, leading me to sack Dobby and Nagant finishes the battle. Better than dying, but it just relied on me heavily predicting what Glacia did. And while some of it is obvious, her going for Hail when she might have a Water type move to KO Magnazone isn't something I can just go off of. Also, she didn't even show a Water type move. On the off chance she doesn't go for a Water type move, and the move is Icicle Crash, we definitely live there with Magnazone, but yeah, I'm rambling. I couldn't do it, guys. Regardless, this was still a lot of fun, and I love using some of these lower tier mons. I got pretty unlucky with encounters. Like, I didn't get any super good Pokemon in this Nuzlocke aside from maybe Salamence, which ended up dying early. But yeah, maybe if Altaria had more than 70 base